Howdy shipmates, it's Captain Dan here. Welcome to Story Time with Captain Dan. A time to share tales old and new with young and old. A time to lift our spirits while we're all stuck in because of the coronavirus. Please keep sending in your requests and any shout outs so we can name all our friends on here and we lift one another up together. But back to today's story. Shall we? Shall we get on with today's story, do you think? Or should I just talk rubbish? We'll get to the story. And I wonder what the tale might be today. Shall we? I need to put these old spy glasses on, you see. Because the old eyes aren't what they used to be. I'm an old sea dog, you see. Ooh, this looks interesting. It's Mr. Lazy by Roger Hargreaves. I hope somebody wasn't making a suggestion when they gave me this book. What do you think? I wonder. Mr. Lazy lives in Sleepyland, which is a very lazy looking and sleepy-like place. The birds in Sleepyland fly so slowly they sometimes fall out of the sky. You can see the bird there. The grass takes so long to grow, it only needs cutting once a year. And even the trees are lazy looking and sleepy like. And you know what time it is? Everybody gets up in Sleepyland. Can you see it there? Can you guess what time it is that everybody gets up in Sleepyland? Well, the correct answer is that they don't get up in the morning. They get up in the afternoon. And incidentally, this is what a Sleepyland clock looks like. Look at that, 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything takes so long to do there that there's only time for 4 hours in a day. Anyway, this story starts with Mr. Lazy being fast asleep in bed. In Sleepyland, actually, they call that being slow asleep. Not fast asleep. He spends rather a lot of time in bed. In fact, it's his favourite place to be. Anyway, he opened his eyes, he yawned, and he yawned again, and he went back to sleep. Later, Mr. Lazy opened his eyes again, and he yawned again, and he went back to sleep again. Much later, Mr. Lazy got up, and he went to make his breakfast. Well, we call it breakfast, but it was already tea time, to be fair. He put the kettle on to make some tea. Kettles take 2 hours to boil in Sleepyland. Then he toasted a slice of bread. Bread takes 3 hours to go brown in Sleepyland. You know, toast, it never gets burnt there. It's a slow burner. While he was waiting for his kettle to boil and his bread to toast, Mr. Lazy went into the garden of Yawn Cottage, which of course was where he lived. He sat down on a chair, and I bet you can guess what happened next, can't you? Yeah, that's right. He yawned and he yawned and he yawned again. And he went to sleep. Suddenly, he woke up with a jump, which is something that doesn't happen very often to Mr. Lazy. And the reason he woke up with a jump was because of the noise. "Wake up!" said the noise. "Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up!" There were 2 men standing right in front of Mr. Lazy. "I'm Mr. Busy," said one of the men. "And I'm Mr. Bustle," said the other. "Come along now," Mr. Bustle said busily. "We can't have you sleeping all day," added Mr. Busy, bustling Mr. Lazy to his feet. But who are you?" said Mr. Lazy. "We're Bustle and Busy," they replied. Oh, said Mr. Lazy. Come along now, said Mr. Busy. We haven't got all day. But, said Mr. Lazy. No time for buts, said Mr. Busy. Or ifs, added Mr. Bustle. There's the wood to chop and the beds to make and the floors to clean and the coal to get and the windows to polish and the plates to wash and the furniture to dust and the grass to cut and the hedges to clip and the food to cook and the clothes to mend, said Mr. Busy. Quite a lot, that. Oh dear, groaned Mr. Lazy in a daze. The wood to clean and the beds to get and the floors to cut and the coal to cook and the windows to make and the plates to mend and the furniture to chop and the grass to wash and the edges to dust and the clothes to clip. He got it all completely wrong. He was in such a daze. Then Mr. Bustle and Busy set Mr. Lazy to work, chopping and making and cleaning and getting and polishing and washing and dusting and cutting and cladding and cooking and mending, not to mention all the fetching and carrying. Poor Mr. Lazy. Now, they said when they'd finished, it's time for a walk. And off they set on the longest walk Mr. Lazy had ever been on. Mr. Lazy is not one of those people. He just never walks. Not when he has a chance to sit down. And you know what? When he has a chance to lie down, he doesn't even sit down. No, he is Mr. Lazy. If he doesn't have to walk, he'll sit. And if he doesn't have to sit, he'll lie down. Is that a good philosophy? Maybe, maybe not. But this day had no choice. They made him walk for miles and miles and miles until he felt that his legs must be worn right down to his body. Poor Mr. Lazy. When they arrived back at Yawn Cottage, Mr. Busy said, "Right now for a run!" "Oh no," groaned Mr. Lazy. "When I blow my whistle," said Mr. Bustle, producing his whistle, "you've got to start running. As fast as you can," said Mr. Busy. Mr. Lazy groaned a deep groan and closed his eyes. Mr. Bustle put the whistle to his lips. I know I'm not very good at whistling. Whistled the whistle. Wee went the whistle. Mr. Lazy, poor Mr. Lazy, started to run. But his legs weren't getting him anywhere. He opened his eyes and he looked down to see why. And the reason his legs weren't getting him anywhere was because he was sitting on a chair in the garden. And there was no sign of Mr. Busy and Mr. Bustle. It had all been a terrible dream. And the whistle was the whistling kettle that had boiled in his kitchen. Mr. Lazy heaved a sigh of relief. And then he went into the kitchen. And he sat down to have his breakfast and to think about his dream. And you know what happened, don't you? "Wake up, Mr. Lazy! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up now, Mr. Lazy! Wake up!" So that's the end of Mr. Lazy by Roger Hargreaves. And that's enough for Captain Dan for today. So keep sending in your story ideas and your shout outs and I'll keep telling these tales. We're in this together, folks. But I'm going to wish you a good night now. So good night, good night. Oh, sweet repose. Don't lie on your belly because you might just squash your nose. Good night.